Hi, in today's video I'm going to show you how to create a playlist of YouTube videos using Emacs, EWW, mpv.el and Invidious. And this is a follow-on from these two videos on how you can install Invidious with Podman or Docker and how you can search YouTube with W3M or Emacs www. So what I'm going to do is switch across to Emacs EWW, and what I've got here is Invidious running in a Docker container that I'm accessing locally here. And what I want to do is actually show you how you can create a list of videos you want to be played sequentially one after the other using MPV. So what I'm going to do is actually come across here and I'm going to search using this little search box here, and you need to press I or A to get into insert mode. Okay, escape I. You can see I'm in insert mode and I can search for stuff. So distro box, and now I'm going to press escape and scroll down here. So what I showed you in the previous video is how you can select the URL from one of these results, either from the list view or the page view, and then use that URL with the mpv.package and the mpv.el package for Emacs to play the video with MPV. So when you're in this view, what you can do is either mouse over the link or the thumbnail and press W, and you can see there it's copied the URL. If I go into this page by pressing return, I can actually do the same thing by pressing eww-copy-url, I think it's copy-page-url. And that's copied the URL. So you can copy the URL in either view. Now I'm going to press Shift-H to go back and just copy that. So once it's copied to the clipboard, what you can do is run meta-x mpv-play-url and then press Control-Y to paste in the URL. What's going to happen now is it's going to open the video in a second. Okay, and what I'm just going to do, there we go. Go on, you bugger. There we go. Let me just resize this a bit and stick it to be always on top. Okay, so we've got this playing, and the way that this works is it's using the MPV JSON RPC interface. And it also works with things like your hydras. So if I press F2 here and then space, you can see I have a list of hydras here, commands that I can now press a keyboard shortcut to control this. So I can seek forwards, backwards, that sort of thing, quit. But the issue is, I'll just quit that now. I couldn't see how you could actually create a list of videos that you want to play sequentially one after the other. So suppose I'm searching for stuff on DistroBox and I want to do some research. Without being able to create a playlist, you kind of got to stay on the same page of the results, so that you can go, okay, I'm going to play this one. You know, when this one's done, I'm now going to select this video and play it. And that's not great. You want a way to be able to go through and create a playlist of videos that we're interested to be played sequentially one after the other with the same player. So typically the other issue is if you start a video with MPV like this, maybe you put it on your second display, put it full screen. When the video quits and you select another video, you've got to, you know, do the same thing, reposition the video. So the advantage of having a playlist is we're using the same player, so it's going to stay in the same place on your monitor without you having to faff about every time you add a new video. So how do we do this? Well, it's actually all baked in. It's just the order of the commands you use that's actually important. So what I'm going to do is actually run meta-x mpv, and this will list all the MPV commands available. And some of these options down here, like OSD, screenshot, are actually for for my mpv config where I've added custom mpv commands that show up in my Hydra, and these also show up when I run mpv with meta-x. So we've got a list of the commands we can actually use. So the interesting ones here you can see coming up at the top because I've been using them is mpv-play-url and mpv-playlist-append-url. And then we've got stuff like mpv-playlist next and that sort of thing. So what we're going to be doing is actually creating a playlist without creating a physical playlist file. We just top the T up there. So what we're going to do is come through and create a playlist. So we're going to select the first one here. So this is the trick. You have to start the first video with mpv-play-url. You can't do append to playlist because the playlist hasn't been created yet. So the first video that you select, you've got to run mpv-play-url. So I'm going to copy this link, mpv-play-url, Control Y, paste it in, and I'm going to, when it comes up, I'm just going to pause it and resize it again, so I can show you this actually working. Make it always on top. So now we're in MPV. If you press function 8, function 8, what that will bring up is a list of the playlists, the items in the playlist. Okay, so you can see there's just one video there, right? And then you also have keyboard shortcuts for moving the next item in the playlist in MPV. What we're going to do now is I've got focus back on Emacs here, you can see. So I'm actually going to come through and actually select multiple videos to be queued up. So I'm going to do the same deal. I'm going to press W on the keyboard with the thumbnail or the link down there, and that's going to copy the URL to the clipboard. Okay. We now run meta-x mpv append URL. Control Y, paste that in, added that to the current playlist. Now if we switch across to MPV, press function 8 again, you'll see there's now 2 items coming up. Okay, and we can move back and forwards between the items in the playlist using these keyboard shortcuts, greater than and more than. So that'd be shift and period or comma will activate those keys. So I can either move the next item in the playlist using MPV or actually from within Emacs. So let's go through and add some more videos here. Okay, there's one on Linux cast. So W, when I press meta-x, you'll see that the most recently used item is actually at the top. So I can just press return, paste in the URL with Control Y, and you can see in the menu buffer added to the current playlist. If I press F8, you'll see there's now 3 items there. So let's just go through and just is there some more interesting ones there? Okay, one on silver blue. So you can see it's not the procedure. It's not too many keyboard shortcuts. You press W, meta-x. If it's at the top, just press return, then press Control Y, and it'll add it to the playlist. So let's have a look at some of the MPV commands in Emacs. So we've got MPV playlist. The other thing you want is orderless installed so that you can actually, just narrow stuff down there. So what we've done playlist append URL. So we got playlist append would append a file, a path. So we don't want that because we're using URLs in this situation. So the options we've got to play with are next and previous, and remove entry and jump to playlist entry. So we can remove an index, an entry index from the MPV playlist, like 1, 2, 3. So let's have a look at that. So let's see. Okay, it's actually listing all the playlist entries here. This is really nice. So what we can see here is the first one here has got an asterisk next to it, indicating that it's the currently active item in the playlist. And then we have these other items down here. So suggest, say we don't want this one. Okay, that's now going to have removed that item from the playlist. Oh, hang on, F8. See, now we've got 3. So let's see if we can add that back in. Copy that. Sometimes it doesn't actually show in the mini buffer when you've copied the URL. So playlist append URL. Okay, added that. So let's go through MPV next. You can see it's jumped to the next item in the playlist here. Do F8. You can see that the arrow is now on the second item there. So again, I could do MPV playlist previous, and that's going to switch back to the previous one in a second. Here we go. You could also do this with these keys here. So let's do that. So shift greater than. Give it a second. Oh, maybe I didn't have it. I didn't have it active. That's why. Okay. There we go. Next one. And that's obviously the Linux cast there. So once we got this up, the important thing to note, as we're changing items in the playlist, the video size remains the same. So it's not jumping about, changing size. I mean, they're all probably the same, you know, aspect ratio and everything. But what I mean is, suppose this was on your, you know, your main monitor. Once you've got it set up there with the first video, you just append URLs to the playlist. It's going to stay in place. So the advantage is that you're not, every time you're opening a new video, you're not having to, you know, resize the video, move it across to your second display. It's gonna stay there, and you've got a way to actually queue up videos to actually be played sequentially, one after the other. So suppose I want to watch Big Buck Bunny. So sometimes it's a bit of a battle getting into insert mode here. There we go. So Big Buck Bunny. I suppose you've got some kids or something and you want to queue up some cartoons or something. So there we go. We'll copy this. Append URL. Okay. Let's search for Elephant's Dream, which is another Blender thing. Hang on. Elephant's Dream. And then we'll do init.el as well. It says Elephant's Dream. Again, you see that's top, just push enter, Control Y, adding it. And let's do init.el. That comes up with the right thing. Yeah, okay, there's init.el. Yeah, that's the one we want. Okay. Right. So we've got all those added to the actual playlist. We can come across here, press function 8. You can see where we are in the playlist there. And if we run mpv playlist, you can see the things we've got there. So we've got remove playlist entry, jump to playlist entry. So we can do jump to playlist entry. This is really nice again, because what we've got here is a mini buffer with all the links here. Obviously, the downside is because we're working with actual URLs, we don't have the titles. Okay, because you don't give a title to a video player. Yeah, you give a URL to a video player. So that's why we're working just with URLs here. So that is one issue, is that we can't see what these relate to. You'd have to kind of, manually remember. But say we know that we've added 3 ones here, so we want to jump to Big Buck Bunny and give that a second or two, and that's now okay. You see the window has actually changed size there, but it's sort of remained in position. The other thing to note is that you can see as I'm switching the playlist entries, it's not playing automatically, which may be a good or bad thing, depending on your view, but no issue just having to press return or play, space rather. So then again, I can come down here, I can go mpv next, and that's going to play the next thing. And again, you see it's not auto starting, so what I can do is I can press function F2 space and bring up my Hydra there. So I can have the Hydra set up like this and just pause. I can go back. So when the Hydra is active here, what I'm doing is mpv doesn't have focus. Emacs has focus, and I can use all these keyboard shortcuts here to control mpv.
At the left, we can see,
pause it, go frame forward, backwards. Actually, seeking backwards is a lot slower than seeking forwards because it has to decode the stuff from memory or something. I can show the OSD. I can quit it. Now, if I quit it, let's just go back actually there. So mpv playlist, I would imagine that clears all the playlist entries. So you can see quitting mpv actually removes all the playlist entries. And we're not dealing with a physical file here. It's not creating a physical playlist file like an M3U or something. What it's doing is it's starting mpv up using the JSON RPC interface that allows you to control mpv over the socket. And then what it's doing is it's actually sending that link over the socket to mpv and sort of queuing it up. So let's go and search some other stuff. Say we're suddenly interested in what's happening with. Let me get into this. There we go. For then Donald Trump. Let's see what's happening to him. So suppose we just want to create a list of videos about the Donald. Okay. So again, what you have to do is the first video has to be started with mpv-play-url. You can't run mpv-append-url because, as I said, there's nothing. mpv hasn't started up, so there's no playlist to append it to, as it were. So actually, I might get in hassle playing these ones. Let's just go for some Linux stuff. Don't want to play anything that's copyright, Okay, so Titus React. So suppose we want to play that. mpv-play-url. Give it a couple of seconds. Okay, I'm just going to resize this. mpv does have a on top mode by pressing capital T, but it doesn't seem to work in GNOME. So what I do is press Alt space, brings up this, and you can do always on top. So again, we'll just go through and do it a few different ways. So we'll have a look at this page. Okay. There's the image. So what we'll do on this page is run meta-x eww-copy-page-url, and then we'll do meta-x again, mpv append URL. Okay, so that's appended those two, and we can run meta-x again, mpv what was it, playlist. Okay, so we can do jump to playlist entry, next and previous, remove playlist entry, and the last one, playlist append, is for files. So suppose we suddenly decide we want to, we don't want to watch this first. We can do jump to playlist entry, use the arrow keys, just move down. I'm going to jump to that. Okay, so I'll quit that. I just keep that focused and quit it. Oops, I'll quit EWW. Okay, oh, there we go. Pump braces for arrest. Braces for arrest. So what we could do is actually add some of those commands to the Hydra, because it can be a bit of a pain running meta-x, mpv, jump to playlist entry, append URL, that sort of thing. So what I was wondering is, could we add those to like this Hydra? So I press F2 space, that comes up. So we can actually add some of those things to this Hydra to make it easier to actually search for stuff, but I don't know how it would if it would prompt you, if you did like append URL, a playlist append URL, and had a keyboard shortcut here, would it bring up the mini buffer, paste in the URL? The other thing is, it'd be nice to be able to actually simplify the amount of steps that you've got to go through to do it. So what I mean is, we want to watch this, we've got to press W, and we've got to press meta-x, mpv, either put, play URL, then control Y, like that. So what would be nice is actually to combine all those steps. So what you want is actually two keyboard shortcuts. You want one to add the first video, and then you want a second command to append a URL. The other thing I was looking at is embark. So what you can do is copy the URL. I could do control comma, act on function, and I think what you can do is then press meta-x mpv-play-url. And
Donald Trump is panicking. Now predict.
So the issue with using that is, you can see what's happened is it's actually created a split buffer here with the consult thing. So when it was actually running embark rather, and I told it to act on the URL, what it did was it sort of split the buffer into two, and you can see here it's got my init.el file from the other tab there. And we're not really kind of gaining that much speed with that approach. We still had too many keyboard shortcuts. So what I want to do is actually figure out a way to run the Emacs EWW. So EWW, if we run EWW here, we can see here a list of the commands. And we're just looking for the W command. Next URL readable is bound to W, I know it is. So I'm just looking for the actual name. Oh, it should be, I mean, it is W, but it's not actually showing up. So I could search for the key binding for that and all that kind of stuff. But it'd be nice to have something that would copy the URL, then invoke mpv-play-url with one keyboard shortcut. So that's the next sort of stage. But the first part is actually obviously figuring out how this works and how to use it, and then you can progress and make the workflow a bit easier by reducing the amount, the number of keyboard shortcuts you need to use. So if I come across to my Emacs init.el, what we've got here, this is my config for mpv.el. So you can install the mpv.el package, but what I've got here is a set of customizations to actually improve it by getting it to work with timestamps to the millisecond. So what this does is this kind of reformats the org timer to use milliseconds so that you can actually seek bang on to an exact frame or millisecond in a video. So this is my extra sort of bit of config here. You can see org timer milliseconds for MPV. And then we've got these custom MPV commands. So these commands here are things that are MPV commands. So they're basically MPV commands from the man page that I have added little bits of eLisp code here, which will show up in the Hydra. So you can see here we've got step forward, step backwards. So if I do it, there's no video playing, but the Hydra will still come up. So we've got seek back, seek forward. So these are typically the H, J, K, and L keys that you would find in Emacs to allow you to seek forward and backwards. See back frame, forward frame, space, quit, insert playback position, screenshot, OSD. So if I just come across to my mpv.config, config mpv, is it in the inputs? Yeah, it's in the input. So in .config mpv input.conf, you can actually set the key bindings, and what you'll see here is I've got the LHJK, well, those keys there, set to seek backwards, forwards, either by 5 seconds or 60 seconds. So H seeks backwards 5 seconds, L seeks forwards 5 seconds, J seeks backwards 60 seconds, and K seeks forward 60 seconds. And those are the key bindings that show up the Hydra. So there's the same sort of key bindings. So what you can basically do is, because you're using the JSON RPC interface with MPV, is that you can actually send any command that MPV supports to it, using these kind of like these little blocks of code. So what we've got here is MPV enqueue. So this is kind of like enqueuing the command basically, and this is the actual name of the MPV command. So if we come across here, frame back step. So if we come here, I think it should be listed frame back step. So you can see here frame back step. And now you can see here screenshot. So this is how we can actually create a custom bit of eLisp code to send a MPV command to MPV, you know, and the format is the same for each one. So with eval after load MPV. So after MPV has loaded, we can define a function. We're calling these things like basically MPV dash and then the name of the function that it's going to execute. So, you know, just makes sense. And then what we've got here is this little bit of text here, step 1 frame forward, 1 frame backwards. So if I do MPV frame step and back step, you can see that's what's actually showing up. So frame step and frame back step. Those commands that are coming up using meta-x mpv are these commands here. So what it should be possible to do is actually create additional little commands here. Yeah, and then this is the Hydra. This is what comes up when I press function F2. You can see it's comprised of two parts. You've got this section up here, and this defines the menu coming up here. So you can see seek, actions, general, and you have to have this special kind of format here. It's a bit weird. You can see all these. First of all, you can see it's in double quotes, and then you've got these. This is used to kind of position stuff, and these little pointy chevrons, and this is how we kind of align stuff. And you can see how each of these is like underscore, like H underscore colon, and then that. But the underscores don't actually appear in here. This is just the format that you actually need to use to create the Hydra. And then underneath what we've got is actually the key binding followed by the function with the argument. Yeah. So you can see here, these are some of the functions. So H, J, K, and L, you can see mpv seek backwards, 5 seconds, 60 dinner. That's the same as my input config. So what we could do is actually take some of those playlist commands and actually add them down here. So what would probably make most sense is to actually create an additional thing down here, because we've got the space, rather than trying to cram them in under each one of these things. We create an additional playlist block here with some of those playlist commands. So mpv playlist. So we've got jump to entry, append URL, next, previous, remove playlist entry. So those are the ones we're going to be interested in for URLs, basically, which is what we're dealing with YouTube, obviously. So that's the next thing I'll have a look at, is actually adding these in to the Hydra and see if that actually makes it any easier to execute and actually improves the workflow of being able to add stuff. Because ideally what you want to be able to do is just come through here and press a single keyboard shortcut. I suppose what you really want is one keyboard shortcut that if you haven't got anything in the playlist, the first one uses mpv-play-url. But if and then what you want to do is actually check that the next time it would use mpv playlist append URL. So you kind of want a bit of logic there to actually have just one keyboard shortcut. So you just come through, go, oh yeah, cue that up, press one keyboard shortcut. If it's not, there's no playlist, use mpv-play-url. Otherwise, if there is something in the playlist, use mpv-append URL. So that would make it really easy just to come through and go, yep, cue that up, cue that up. And I say the advantage of that is that you don't have to stay on the search results page, because otherwise you kind of you could open a new tab for Invidious using eww, but then you kind of you're juggling tabs really, which is a bit of a pain. So the advantage of this is you're not stuck on the same page, search results, and queuing up things manually one after the other. You can actually create a queue of videos, put the video on the external, on your big monitor, and it's going to remain in place. It's going to use the same player, basically. So, it's the difference between, how if you pop out the mini player with YouTube, you put it full screen, you know, the picture in picture, if you queue things up, it will reuse the same player, and we can achieve that same functionality using MPV and the playlists. And again, this isn't actually creating a physical playlist file that I'm aware of. Let's have a look at temp Emacs 1000. No, there's nothing in there. Yeah, what I was just wondering is if it was actually sort of maybe creating a playlist somewhere. You know, in the sort of MPV Emacs directories. Let's have a look in here. I don't see anything. eww bookmarks, spaces tramp, URLs, cache cookies. No. I think what it must be doing is actually just sending the URLs over to mpv over the socket. So let's just have a look at mpv.el. Okay, there we go. So here's mpv.el, and what we can just simply do is have a look through here. So this is obviously where you're going to find all the actual bits of code. Let's just make that a bit bigger. So you can see we've got the path here. So what we want to do is actually search for playlist, append playlist. What is it? MPV playlist append URL. So MPV playlist append URL. Okay, if args are provided, they're passed as per file option to MPV file MPV playlist. Okay, so that's the MPV playlist. That's for files. This is MPV playlist append URL, which is the one we're interested in. Append URL to the current MPV playlist. So you can see here, this is the actual bit of code here that is using. So what we can actually do is actually copy this bit of code and actually rejig it into our Emacs init.el file and add it to the Hydra, which is what I basically did for sort of these sections up here. I went through, found the actual name of the command and created a little function for it that we can run from the Hydra. So then that's the next step, is actually seeing how we can sort of create some custom functions that would actually just make it as easy just as pressing a single keyboard shortcut, having it open MPV and just going through and selecting all the interesting things. Because the issue is, if you're, for example, here I'll show you. If I go into this page here, I can run eww-copy-url, page-url. If I then type meta x again, you can see that's going to be the sort of next result. So I'll have to come down to emacs-play-url and paste it in. Whereas if you're actually on this sort of view page here, why is it Emacs doing this now? Now it's decided to be a bit funny. You can just come through mpv-play-url, append URL. It'll be at the top. So that's just another, like, a minor niggle, is that you're going to have to do, if you're going back and forth between this view and the actual page, the completion for either play URL or append URL isn't going to be at the top of your MX list. So that's another reason why, rather than having to type MX, MPV Even with orderless, you still have to, you know, okay, there's play URL. You still have to do a bit of typing to actually get the command to show up. So that's why having a keyboard shortcut or something would be helpful. I was just thinking about the Hydra. So the Hydra wouldn't kind of be useful for actually adding the items, but it might be useful for coming up, going, you know, next item in playlist, or let's have a look at some of these. So the ones I think it would be, the Hydra might be useful for, come on, would be jump to playlist entry, previous and next, remove playlist entry. So I don't think the having the Hydra for appending a URL would be useful, because you've got to press F2 and then another keyboard shortcut. I don't know if that would be the most efficient way to do it, rather than just having a keyboard shortcut that calls some sort of function. But anyway, that's my thoughts on the next stage of this, of how to make it actually more user friendly. Let me just quit this buffer because it's being a bit slow. About eww, list bookmarks. So you can also have bookmarks with Invidious, with eww. I think it's eww. List bookmarks. So bookmark, I think it's add bookmark. So that's how you can actually bookmark these pages with eww. So you can, rather than, if I type eww, it's going to come up with a list of recent things there, completions. But having bookmarks is a bit more efficient, rather than having to go through a list of URLs. So that's how you can queue things up with Emacs, eww, and mpv, and Invidious, so that you can just search your Invidious instance. Again, this Invidious doesn't use the YouTube API at all. Doesn't use JavaScript apart from pulling in the comments, so you can search the entire site with something like W3M on the command line. But the issue with W3M is only older browsers, like older terminals like URXVT and Xterm, really have image support. And I'm not sure if that actually works on Wayland anyway. So if you're using something like Alacrity, you don't get images for this page, which is why I'm using Emacs EWW and the mpv package, so that I can actually play the links easily and create a playlist of items that I want to play. So I'll put links to all this under the video, to the mpv package here, so you can actually go through and have a look at the commands, as well as my Emacs config file here. So you can actually see my whole mpv setup. So if you want to copy my mpv setup, which I've showed you in previous videos, it can do things with the Hydra, like add the position of the video, playback position of a video, into an org file. And that's useful because what you can actually do is use mpv.el, go through a video, insert the timestamps of particular bits that you're interested in. And that's going to give you a list of timestamps that you can then use with other scripts that I've written to actually go through and just chop up the video. So I've got scripts that will actually take a series of timestamps and just automatically go through and chop the video up into those sections. So that's another use for it. So if you just come across to my mpv.el and my Emacs init.el, and you'll see a couple of things here. Package selected packages, and what you'll see in here, if we can see, you can see the packages I've got here installed. mpv down here, don't think there's any other related MPV ones. Yeah, EL feed tube. This is for EL feed tube, which is the Emacs RSS reader, and it just triggered another thing that I was thinking about with RSS, which I'll show you, and that's how to add binaries in your shell path to Emacs, which is another thing that ties in with Invidious as well. So all you want to do is make sure you've got the mpv package installed, and if I come across to mpv.el, okay. So from this section here, you can just copy this section here, and what this does is this modifies the org timer so that it supports milliseconds, so that we can actually do stuff like insert the exact millisecond of a video into an org buffer, the time. The other thing that you can do is, if you have a list of timestamps in an org file, what you can actually do is jump to those timestamps in the video. So you can actually have a list of timestamps, of a video, and then put your cursor over them and just jump to those points, which is really useful. So what you can just do is just copy this whole MPV section down here and all this Hydra stuff, and I'll look at adding more stuff to the Hydra. And this just reminded me of something that I just added down here. Okay, what this is a bit I got from the Emacs wiki, and what it does is you can run asynchronous commands on a URL. So let me show you what I mean. So what I'm going to do is pick a video. Sometimes there we go. NUFC. I could actually just go up to my filters. Okay, so what you can do with Invidious is you can listen to. There's an option in. Come across here. There's actually an option, audio only option here, so you can listen to just audio instead of playing the video. What I like to be able to do, especially with music, is actually send the link from Invidious to MPD. And the way I do that is I have a script called pinch. And what that does is that takes the URL and basically sends it to MPD using MPC. What I can do is, I've got the cursor over here, over this thumbnail. I'm going to press W to copy the URL. What I can now do is press Meta, Shift, and 7. Okay, and that says Asynchronous Shell Command. Now, if I start typing PIN and press Tab, what you'll see is I'm actually getting completions coming up here. The command that I'm going to run is pinch, okay, pinch, like that. And I have to give it the -I option, single quotes, Control Y, close single quote. Okay, press return. And what's going to happen is we're going to get a pop-up in a second.
Buongiorno everyone, welcome back to the Mac by Channel TV, and welcome to St. James's Park. There she is, in all her glory.
Okay, so what you can see there is something I showed you in a previous video, but what was happening when I showed you it in the previous video was that I wasn't getting completion for the pinch command, which is in my bin directory in my home. So by default, Emacs wasn't searching the binaries in my path. It was just using, the standard locations, user bin, user local bin, that sort of thing. So what this bit of code here does is it sets up Emacs's exec-path and path environmental variables to match those used by the user's shell. That's brilliant. That's really what you kind of want. So what that allows you to do is execute asynchronously any command that is in your path. Yeah, so any script that you have got. So here's my bin directory. So I've got all these scripts here in my bin directory. So what I can do is actually, here's the pinch script. Yeah, this is a shell script. Bin sh. You can see it says bash down here, and that is actually because I have set up tree sitter. This is Emacs 30 that I built from source, and what I've done is I've set up tree sitter, which unfortunately only has a bash grammar. It doesn't have a shell script grammar, as it were. So that's why I'm using the tree sitter bash grammar to do the syntax highlighting for this page. So you can see how this looks really nice. This is the tree sitter syntax highlighting, which is absolutely gorgeous. You can see here all these different items are color coded with care, as it were. So this is the this is basically the function. I won't go through and sort of show you that, but what this bit of code here does is it basically gets your shell path so that you can actually then get auto completion with the asynchronous command rather than having to type it out. Because if you've got a script with a long name or hyphens or something or whatever, it's a pain to having to manually type stuff out. So what other scripts have I got? Any scripts here that would work on a URL? No, I mean, I don't think I've got anything apart from that sort of pinch script that would be applicable, but I'll show you again. So I've just come across here, W, and then I'm going to do meta, that's Alt Shift 7, asynchronous. So if I just start typing PIN and press tab, you see we're getting ping come up and we're getting pinch. So let's have a look at the where is ping? That should be something like user bin, is it? Yeah, user bin ping. So if we do where is pinch, you can see that is it's actually listing here home username git fedora bin pinch, but I have this fedora bin directory is a I create a symbolic link called bin to this directory. Hang on. You can see there the bin directory is actually a symbolic link to that Fedora bin git repository there. So you can see that Emacs is now, if I do echo path, you see here we've got home, username bin, local bin, and then we've got user local bin, user local s bin, user s bin. And the way that I do that is with my ZSH env. So this is how you set your path on ZSH. What we've got here is typeset dash capital U path capital path and then path. And what that does is that ensures that the path doesn't have any duplicates. I think the dash capital U means only have unique entries, basically. So sometimes, especially on Bash, I found that it can duplicate the entries. But what we're doing here is we're saying the path equals home bin path, local bin path, user local bin, and then path. So what this is doing is it's prepending these items before the main path. And that's useful because that allows you to do things like create a script that has got the same name as a binary that's already installed and add modifications to it. So if you've got a script like mpv or something, you could there was a time when there was an issue with mpv and Nvidia. So what I would do is I'd actually I think there was another one where when YTDLP came out, which is a successor to eww-copy-url, a lot of packages still expected a binary called eww-copy-url. So what I'd do is I'd create a symbolic link from YouTube called eww-DL to ytdlp. Put that in my home bin directory, and what that would do is actually take precedence over eww-DL installed on the system and redirect it to ytdlp. So that's just another tip on how you can actually get all your binaries in your shell's path to actually show up in Emacs so that you can use them with the asynchronous shell command, which, as I said, is useful if you want to basically run custom scripts from within Emacs without Emacs locking up while the script is running. You don't want to run something without asynchronous, because then you can't do anything with Emacs till that script's finished running. And the advantage of this is that you can, if you don't know a lot of Lisp, basically, like I don't, but you're okay writing shell scripts, what it allows you to do is actually, rather than trying to accomplish the same thing in eLisp, it may be a lot easier to write a shell script and then run the shell script from within Emacs. So copy the URL, pinch. So what's really nice, we get the tab completion. Yeah, it's a little thing, but it helps. -I.
Hey guys, and welcome back.
Okay. And the reason why I have this notification coming up here is because because what we're doing is we're passing a URL to MPD. It doesn't actually have the there isn't a way to show the URL in NCMPC. Just going to show, you can't show the title. It's only going to show the URL. So what I do is when the script runs, it sends a notification using notify send. And you can see that comes up here. And the reason for that is because I'm running Emacs EDNC, which is the Emacs Desktop Notification Center. And what you can do is you can actually replace the GNOME notification center with EDNC. And the way that I do that is bin GNOME, no GNOME notifications. So this is just a simple script, pkill f single quotes org.gnome shell notifications. Yeah. And what I do, I have in my config auto start, we have a .desktop file here that looks like this. Type application, and then we have execute, home bin, no notifications, hidden true, no display true. And this is the important bit down here, xgnome auto start enabled true. And so what this script does is it will basically run at startup, and it will basically kill the GNOME desktop notification center. And then in Emacs EDNC, I've got the package there installed. You can see EDNC, and this is the Emacs desktop notification center here. So these are my settings for EDNC down here, and there are some key bindings that you actually need to change because they conflict with evil mode. So I can actually come across to the buffer here, Control XB, EDNC, and I can actually see a load of notifications that have actually sort of come in. So this is actually showing all the notifications coming in from notify send, but also this picks up desktop notifications. So the advantage of this is when you comment on like a video, you can see down here, it's not actually showing the full comment there. There's a guy who was just saying, you know, if you started with an org document and were more organized and went through bit by bit, I was just saying, my brain doesn't work like that, and it takes more time to write stuff out. And frequently I don't think of stuff till I'm actually demoing it like this. But basically what this does is the Emacs Desktop Notification Center is it will work with desktop notifications from your web browser. So if you've got YouTube set up with desktop notifications, rather than them showing up in the GNOME desktop notifications, they will show up in EDNC in Emacs. And the advantage of this is you can see all the notifications, and I can sort of tab here so I can actually see all the notifications. And you can see here we've actually got a little icon here, and I think if I press the so I've got control pressed here, and if I scroll with the mouse wheel, you can see how the image is actually getting bigger there. So that's a nice thing. If you get notifications with images, you can actually scroll to make them bigger as well, and you can actually delete these notifications. So I can delete all these notifications like this, which is, you know, another nice feature. So that's why I use notifications with that pinch script, because we can't actually see the URL in the MPD client. So that way I can have notifications here and actually come up into the EDNC log and see a list of all the notifications. So that was just a bit of a sidetrack, but it was kind of related because I wanted to show you one something I was showing you in a previous video that I've improved, that we weren't getting the autocomplete for the shell command. So it said, you know, copy this, and before I was having to manually have to type out the whole name of the thing, whereas now I can just type that and tab, and that is basically this little bit down here, and that's from the Emacs wiki. So maybe if I just search for this, I can find the actual article. Yeah, this one here, the Emacs exec-path. So that's where this bit of code comes from here. So you know, the code's all right. It's from the Emacs wiki. It's not going to do any harm. So once you put that in and evaluate it, so add that to your Emacs init.el, and what you can either do is stick your cursor down there, the end of this line, Control-X-E, and then down here, Control-X-E again to evaluate, or you could evaluate the whole block. And then once you've done that, all the binaries in your path will show up with completions in the Emacs asynchronous shell command. So some of this stuff kind of leads you off on a tangent, and it's like, okay, yeah, I'm doing this, but then this isn't working, so how do I fix that? And I need to, you know, do something else. And that's just like a roundup of how to improve EWW and being able to queue up the videos easily. So not too many keyboard shortcuts, but I'd still like to make it shorter by writing some custom functions that would grab the URL if there's no playlist created. So what we want is basically a way to automate this process. So copy the URL, mpv-play-url, paste the URL in. So you want to automate those steps. I'm just going to wait till this comes up, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, there. I'll just move this off screen for a second. And then be able to come through here, and what we want to do again for this video, we want to append it to the playlist. So the steps that we'd want to automate would be copying the URL, and then mpv append URL, and then pasting in the URL there. So what would be nice is just to have a single keyboard shortcut that would, on this video, copy the URL, use the mpv-play-url command, paste in the URL. But on the next video, what we want to do is copy the URL and then run mpv append URL and then paste in the URL. So it'd be nice to have a single command keyboard shortcut defined that would, you know, somehow check if there's a playlist created, and if not, it's going to use this command, but if there is, then it's going to use this one. So ideally what I want is just a way to come through and just press a single keyboard shortcut, and basically if MPV's not playing, play the URL. If it is playing something, append the URL. And then also what we want to do is actually have a look at the playlist commands. So the issue with when you've actually got the playlist up is you've got to run mpv playlist. So if I just do next, will that narrow it down? So you could just do next, but that's still going to show you chapter as well. So what I'd really want is maybe the Hydra come up here, and have an extra section here that would be like a keyboard shortcut for next item in playlist, previous item in playlist. Let's just have a look at the playlist. So these are the commands that I'd want to have in the Hydra. Once again, would be probably jump to playlist entry, playlist next, and previous, and remove playlist entry. So that'd be 4 items. So I think that's doable. I'll have a look at doing that and see how that actually works. So it's just a personal preference rather than having to run meta-x, that and then narrowing it down. Just think it'd be easier just to press F2, bring that up, and then press a keyboard shortcut. I think it'd just take less time. But I don't think the other commands would. I don't think they'd work in the Hydra. I think you'd want a single keyboard shortcut for those. So that's enough of me rattling on. As a guy in previous comments said, you should do shorter videos. It's just that sometimes all these things are kind of like interrelated and they take you off into different tangents. But they're all used to kind of make a workflow of something. So you kind of need you kind of got to cobble all these bits together. You've got to MacGyver them together to get them to work. But I just wanted to show you how the functionality of the mpv.el package works. And again, first, what you need to do, remember the first URL. Okay, if I just copy this URL just to show you, if I run mpv playlist append URL, paste in the URL, nothing's going to happen. It's not going to play anything. Okay, and that's because you're appending, and so by default that means the thing has to already exist. It's not add, not like a function that's like add item to playlist. It's append. So what you got to do, again, mpv-play-url. Once that's come up,
Newcastle
so
United have.
hang on, there's Rubenstein. Can I just move you across there, Rubenstein? Sorry. Bastard. Come on, back page. Okay. And so the next one, what you got to do is append, mpv append URL. And see that added it. And again, if I'll just move Rubenstein back across here, and again the keyboard shortcut. When you're in MPV, if you press function 8, you get the little thing come up there. And what you can do is press shift greater than or less than to move back and forwards in the playlist, like that. So next item, give it a few seconds. You can see there, previous item. Okay, and that's just going back to the blank screen. But again, if I come across here and do the interesting commands are mpv playlist, jump to playlist, and remove playlist entry. Those are the really interesting ones. So again, the only issue with them is go jump to playlist. You can see here there's no way of, you can see that's the currently selected one because it's got the asterisk, but you don't get the title because we're just actually copying the URL, as it were. So that's kind of a downside. I'm not sure if there'd be ideally what you want is to modify this so that it would show the title but use the URL. I don't know if there's a way to modify that. So that's another thing that would be really useful, is to modify the jump to URL section here to use the title, but also the mpv playlist remove playlist entry. Again, the issue here is you can't actually see that the first one is Rubenstein and the second one was this Quinny channel that I selected here. I don't know that unless I memorize it. So that'd be another thing that could be improved, is to somehow get the title. I don't know if it's just because let's see, because what I've been doing is I've been selecting these links. I don't know if I select this link, it will copy that. So append URL, that's still giving me the it's still giving me the link. So regardless of whether I select the thumbnail or the link, jump to playlist entry, yeah, it's because I've already got it there. Still doing that. Let's scroll down if we can find another one. So that's just copying the URL. It's still not going to give me the, it's still not going to give me the, I don't know why it's not showing up there. So that's just another thing that could be improved, and I think those commands might be useful in a Hydra. So I'll put links to all this under the video, and again, I'll just come back. This is a follow-on from these two videos here, installing Invidious with Podman or Docker, or searching YouTube with W3M or Emacs WW using Invidious. So it's just a bit of experimentation, and something that's been bothering me. How can you queue stuff up? But the next stage is how can you improve the user experience by making key bindings for adding the videos, and also adding something to the Hydra. So I have a look at those, but my eLisp code isn't great. It's mainly just sort of hacking about. So if you've got any suggestions on how to accomplish some of that stuff, please leave a comment. And that's all for now.